We wait for everyone to settle in. This is the headline: 165 brands, 43,000 plus hotels, 180,000 plus homes and villas, 6.2 million plus rooms, and roughly 500 million plus loyalty members. Appreciating that there are folks that have multiple brands. As folks get settled in, want to make sure everybody's set up. We're missing a chair.
Someone's got to sit in a high chair.
We've got one coming in. Do we want to bump one down?
I don't know.
This is the hardest
unless
part
you
of the
guys,
panel.
someone wants to sit on someone's lap. I don't know.
I can stand.
Okay. Yeah, put it in the end.
That's
Or,
fine.
or I don't know, man.
I'm going to stand.
You sure? Well, okay, it's here. I don't know.
Anybody have an AI that optimizes chairs? Anybody?
Yeah, why don't we grab one from the crowd?
That's
That's so much. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, smart.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate
Still
it.
need humans.
Here you go.
All right. Everybody's in their proper place. Thank you. All right. So the first question, I touched on 165 brands. Please name them in alphabetical order by company and segment. Actually, I did do that through AI before, and it took about 1 to 2 minutes to think. It got about 160 of the 165, gave me a range, and it was able to alphabetize it. So why don't we start just high level real quick for each of you. What are you most excited about with AI in your role? And if you have a chance, what's philosophically, how do you and your company think about AI and your approach? Why don't we start here, and we'll work our way down. Is the mic on?
Okay.
So Cynthia.
Yeah, so I'm with IHG, and I guess I'll just start with our philosophy. So I think probably like a lot of others in our industry and outside of our industry, we've been focused a lot on operational efficiency and savings first, and we've done a lot in that space, and we're starting to turn our focus now to how can we go bolder and leverage AI to really drive value and start, improving, enhancing the experience for the guest and the hotel. And what we're kind of in the stage now of debating which are those big options that we really should focus on. And so that's really kind of where we're focused. I mean, doing the operational things is kind of a no-brainer. We'll continue to do those things, just like I'm sure all of my colleagues over here would say the same. But it is starting to change. We're feeling more confident now about the things that we've been working on and the results that we're starting to see.
Great. Thanks, Josh from Wyndham.
I'm most excited about the last presenters. Look, I think agentic booking is the good one for me. Right? We're again, like Cynthia, all of the contact center, the customer service. We kind of have 3 audience groups, right? We have our franchisees, our guests, and our employees. All of them now are being serviced or are self-servicing with AI in one facet or another. So all of those kind of operations, internal tasks, cost savings, obviously we're spending a lot of time there, but I am by far the most excited about the booking path. It's just exciting. It's what we all do, right? I've seen the numbers vary from 50% to 90% of how many people plan their travel right now using, some form of an agentic planner. It's what I do, right? And so I'm really, really excited about that. I think it's a channel that gives us more control, more first-party guest data, right? Helps to avoid the erosion of all the margin that we're giving up today in the OTA business. So that's definitely what's most exciting to me right now.
Thanks, Josh. Lindsay from Choice.
Hi, I'm with Choice Hotels. Our philosophy is really to embed AI across the organization, and I'll talk a little bit more about how we're doing that later. I lead data and analytics, so the thing I'm most excited about is the data. For years we needed structured quantitative data in a table, so I'm really excited about the ability to leverage, different kinds of imagery and voice and text and all the fun things we've been talking about today. And really that shift from being kind of prescriptive and predictive and even cognitive to perceptive. And I think that that's where the power is going to come in my space with AI.
Thanks, Lindsay. Matthew from Hilton.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Matthew with Hilton. I share similar sentiment. I think the three big areas, obviously the agentic space is going to be amazing to really, take it from just informational only to the actual transaction itself. And you can just think of all of the different workflows with that. I think more precision. The second thing being more precision and personalization, thinking about that, all of the elements along the guest booking journey and the stay journey, and the ability to personalize that at scale is going to be amazing. And then similar to the other sentiment, this back of the house automation at scale, either it be operations team support, voice support, ops support across our organization. There's just a plethora of opportunity in that, in thinking through classic ways we've done work and speeding up those workflows and enabling those teams and really unlock resources for greater good. So I think that's a big opportunity.
Thanks, Matthew. Nitin from Marriott.
Hey, I'm Nitin with Homes and Villas by Marriott. I am most excited about getting down to the first principles, which is people like to have a conversation with us throughout the journey of travel. And we just want to open up for conversation. This could be up funnel, this could be mid funnel, this could be down funnel, this could be post stay, wherever. We are open to having conversation with people in the language of their choice. And what that brings us back to is the most fundamental thing. This is why one of the first things we did is we took the most riskiest of the funnel positions with Homes and Villas, and we launched about a year and a half ago, our AI search. And we said, all we wanted to do is we just want to know what do people say. And we want to know it directly from people. So a year and a half ago when we launched this, the only motive was we just wanted to hear you guys in how do you want to travel, what do you want to say. And now that we are here, I am very excited about dismantling it all and building it back up, this time with customer in focus.
Wonderful. Thanks. And Ray from Hyatt.
My name's Ray Boyle. I'm with the Hyatt. The thing that I'm most excited about is just the guests and the customer. Like people choose where they want to stay, how they want to travel, and the way that they choose, the drivers of choice are in flux right now. So I think it's just incredibly exciting to think through the implications of artificial intelligence on how people dream, how they plan, how they book, what happens in the stay, how we service them, how we engage them in a loyalty and a relational context over time. So just that whole dynamic I think is incredibly exciting. And then philosophically, how we think about artificial intelligence. We have this purpose of caring for people so they can be their best, and our executive team gets together and they think about the outcomes that we want to pursue and the outputs that drive that. And we think about artificial intelligence as just a key enabler, just rocket fuel and jet fuel into the outcomes of the business. And then we want to make sure that we're very thoughtful about what use cases are approved and funded, and then have a clean operating model to sort of flow those things with velocity and sort of build out the products and the infrastructure to really drive a consistent flow of that innovation in the company. So,
thanks, Ray. That's a perfect transition. So let's talk about where the virtual rubber meets the virtual road in AI and some specific use cases. I'll ask to see who wants to go first. But what are a specific use case with AI, particularly Gen AI, if you have it, that you can share? And then could you also talk to, earlier it was talked about, something early, sometimes it's more A/B testing, but how do you look to measure? How philosophically do you approach that? Do you have a hard ROI or look at metrics? So would somebody like to volunteer to go first, or would they like to be volunteered? It looks like Hilton, Matthew is, or Josh?
Yeah, look, for us, the contact center business is a remarkable expense. at our scale. And so it provides a wonderful proving ground where you have existing SLAs, you know what call handle times are and what conversion is and all of those things. And so we're really investing heavily there. We think there is just a ton of savings opportunity. Look, we've had 8 hours of AI now, so a lot of things have been said. But as somebody earlier mentioned, kind of superpowering the teams, right? Having those, the real powerful engagements, right? Those top funnel revenue calls, right? The diamond member loyalty guests, right? They get somebody immediately. But for the remarkable number of people who call to confirm a reservation, I didn't even know that was a thing before I got neck deep in the contact center world. We take thousands of calls a day from people who just want to make sure that their reservation is in fact still there after they booked it a couple of weeks ago. And so there's just a lot of that, right? That isn't real value add. It's not a good human touch point with our agents, but it's a lot of money. Right, to service all of those calls. And so we found remarkable success there, and it gives us a real easy barometer against whether or not we're being successful in handling those calls because they're just real simple. Things like that, folio resends, the stuff that is just real easy to automate, we've found great success with.
Can you talk to my phone and cable companies, please?
Maybe someday. We're working on it.
I'd be happy to have a less human experience in many cases. Maybe Matthew from Hilton, do you want to pick up? You look like you had one you wanted to share.
Sure, yeah. I mean, more from the data and analytics space, which again is more my background in implementing business intelligence. What we're finding is you've had all this unstructured data or structured data in legacy systems, like what you would call hotel fact sheets or hotel information, right? And so using Gen AI and specific bots in order to optimize on this, but unlocking some of these basic questions that are been routinely hard to answer, over the years. Like, how many hotels do we have in New York? How many balconies are in this hotel? How many hotels have pools in Los Angeles, right? These things are quite complicated to ask or get answers on. And so by leveraging and harnessing, like, for example, consolidated data with the hotel information, you can stick in the Gen AI piece on top of that, and through prompt in chat, you can get quick answers to that and unlock a lot of value that you wouldn't think would be there that's there, and I think that's amazing because, someone that says something that took them 5 minutes or 10 minutes or a day to get an answer to is just right there at their fingertips. And I think it's a really simple thing, but quite profound, actually.
Great. Thanks, Cynthia.
Yeah, I was going to sort of play off of what Josh said. First of all, just a little tidbit around the call centers, because obviously we see that as an opportunity too. But I'm sure you guys are experiencing this also, where we are getting third-party travel agents, OTAs, bots calling our call centers to confirm the reservation. So we've got humans answering bot calls. So that's an easy no-brainer, take care of that one. But what I was really going to play off of is that testing ground. We've actually been testing a lot with robotics in the hotels, and particularly in China, because we actually have a pretty good footprint in China. We're about 800 hotels. And we have, in about half of the hotels, we have robots who are delivering towels, delivering food, and that sort of thing. And China is a really good place for us to test that out. That's kind of the future of innovation for us. It's very easy to get the hotels to follow the procedures. We don't really have to worry about our guests in hotels damaging the robot. So it's a really good place for us to test things out and figure out what works and what doesn't. And then we can bring that to other regions like the States.
My teenage son is cheering for you when it comes to cleaning around our house. He wants to know when it's available for consumers, please. Maybe Nitin, would you like to go next?
I think of this in two spaces. One is, what do we build? And the second is, how do we build it? And I feel like the use cases you asked for are in both places, and both are different use cases. So this is the most fun I have ever had building products. And I think I just feel for myself that I'm so lucky to be alive today and doing what I do today, because this is by far the most exciting times you're going through. And a lot of it comes from how we are building things, because we all always have ideas to do so many different things. But just to see that idea come to reality is a very different pathway that has just been constructed now. And it's fascinating. Just the whole build process itself is fascinating now.
Excellent. Ray?
Yeah, I've got a couple that I would be interested in talking about. One is, so our sales organization has typically spent a lot of time, a pretty massive percentage of their time, just looking at the leads that come in and writing and crafting proposals. So one of the applications that I'm excited about is just basic optimizations, not generative, but really making sure that they're focused on the high revenue, high value leads and accounts, and then using generative AI to craft the initial iteration of the proposals and the RFPs and sort of flowing that out. So that's been, I think, an exciting one, and I think one that's going to make a difference. And then we've been doing a lot of personalization for years on our digital sites and email systems and things like that. But back in April, we released what we call Hotel Finder. So it's a transition in how people can search. So instead of just saying, hey, I'm going to Chicago, I can say, I'd love to go to historical hotels in X and Y parts of Europe, use my points, things along those lines. So I think some of those use cases are exciting to see, and I think it's an early step in a lot of the agentic capabilities that we're going to see just really accelerate into the guest experience. And then just the other one is just giving everybody agentic capabilities. So, doing relationships where we can pull in all of those tools and just make sure that folks throughout the organization have those capabilities at their fingertips, and they can innovate and do a lot of things sort of in the day-to-day flow of the business. I'm just really excited about just watching and seeing how those processes unfold. So.
Right. And I know a few of the brands have talked about, suite or room upgrades on the property, things that took, and this has been talked about publicly, being able, labor intensive on property, to be able to figure out who should get an upgrade based on their status or what they're paying, et cetera. Lindsay, we could talk about a use case, or maybe even we could switch gears into the data layer as you prefer. If it's the data layer, what are the most important things to get right in order to realize the benefits, and what are the challenges, perhaps, with the data layers today?
Okay. I'll start with the use case. So I was thinking how I could build off all of these, but I'll take it in a different direction. With the abundance of geospatial data and with Gen AI, so much more of it, that's been really powerful in terms of development, where we build new hotels, content curation, sales leads. So I think that's a really exciting area in AI that we're doing a lot of new stuff. Pivoting to the data layer. So I would say Choice is pretty far along the maturity curve when it comes to data, but as we've heard about all day, a lot of data that we would have never thought before is now data. And so I think the efforts right now are really about creating that common front door to ensure AI is able to access all of the data in real time. So, digital, loyalty, customer, all that data that we've used for a while now it's ready to go. But there's new areas of data that, we just need to ensure is cleaned up and ready to go.
Well, what would be a new area, for example, or a new data set maybe?
Owner data.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right on. Josh from Wyndham?
Yeah, look, I think building on, not that I often try to agree with Choice.
We did seat you next to each other. We're
That's
trying to
right.
make friends. It's hospitality.
Best of friends. Now, I had a good conversation last week with the ASA Abloy Technical Advisory Board, and we were talking about gathering all of that IoT and sensor data, right? Look, I've wanted to deploy a lot of really cool sensors into the rooms for a long time, and haven't found a good way to offer that return, right? Or how to bundle that up into a program. I think now the rationale for taking the time to connect all of those legacy systems or all of those little point solutions and actually bringing that data in so that AI can leverage that data, right? Both on the input and then hopefully on the output to action it, I think is going to be super powerful. I know we heard from the Bodhi team earlier, right, with their dashboarding and ingestion solutions. I think we're going to see a maturity in that space, and I'm really excited about that as sort of a new point of data that is now, I think, worth consuming and worth acting on.
Yeah, Cynthia?
Yeah, I was just going to add another area is really all of those knowledge search use cases that are mostly relying on files, right? Unstructured data. It is all of a sudden is becoming crystal clear to our folks in the business about why it's so important that they have accurate data, not conflicting data, not duplicates. Like, for instance, hotel policies, if you wanted to have a knowledge search around that. If you have two old documents out there that nobody was really paying attention to, that there was an old one, and now they're conflicting in the information, AI can't necessarily fix that, or at least not today. And it's been a light bulb, I think, that's gone off with some of our partners around their responsibility of needing to really address that. They've always seen kind of data quality as an IT problem, and this is not an IT problem.
I saw Matthew, Nitin, and Ray. Why don't we go in that order?
I was going to add on to Lindsay. I think I couldn't, I really do believe that having the data in a central place is incredibly important. And we're finding this out in many ways. I mean, Hilton's a 100-year-old company, and you have all of these legacy applications and processes for a variety of reasons. And even if you could write the bots to jump between the applications, you're going to spend your whole life writing that code to jump through the bots. And so getting it in central is so incredibly important. And I just would reiterate that. The other piece to that is from an analytics and reporting layer is really the semantic piece and potentially a data dictionary. And so often we don't have common language across the company. And so how do you get that common language and work towards that dictionary so that the bots can kind of orchestrate with themselves as you start to centralize that data? That's an incredible piece. So as you think about the cornerstones of the data strategy, having that data dictionary is incredibly important. So, yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, we think of data and AI as a product, and I specifically think artificial intelligence is a data product. So it really is just all about the data. We've heard that throughout the day, which I thought was really great. And then when I think about artificial intelligence, there's two or three things that I think are becoming more and more important. One is just latency and speed and streaming, and just making sure that data is in context with a lot of the agentic and AI-based services sort of context. So it's got to move really fast. We talk about source of truth and stewardship disciplines and the quality of that data and the definition of that data from a cataloging perspective, and sort of designing and getting the metadata right is really, really a big deal. Governance, so both from a data and an AI perspective, making sure that the process to build capabilities is by definition, it can't go another way, but it's governed and engineered in a way that's just safe all the time. And then this presentation we had before, I think, is a big rocket ship for the industry, just making sure that everything's ready to roll in an agentic world, and sort of the new things we're seeing with some of our emerging tech partners out there is just fascinating. So
Thanks, Ray. Nitin?
In the world of natural language, what keeps me up right now is the change in expectation of what people are trying to see when they have used more words. Now, data can be thought of from a quantitative perspective. For example, some examples were shared earlier. Do we have a pool? Do we have a balcony? Do we have all of this? So all of that can be structured. But the complexity arises when I come and say these things in natural languages and not checkboxes on filters. Because when I say, I'll take an example of homes because every home is unique. If I come and say, show me homes in Orlando with a pool next to the park, what I have not said, but what I mean is the best pools, because my intent becomes much stronger because I used my words for it. Now, I could have the product which has a box called pool yes, no. That is not enough to answer that question. So getting into the depths of data that doesn't exist, how are you going to make it exist? Where are you going to put it? Who's going to validate? On top of that layer, each hotel owner's promise that we make, right? So, or each owner promises that we have, like, why is that pool better than mine, or blah, blah, blah. So as we enter the world of natural language search, I think the qualitative aspect of what data we thought was quantitative becomes a very serious problem to answer.
I'm going to give a jump ball here, so whoever wants to answer this one, I'll throw a second one out, like a jump ball, and we won't do everyone on this, we'll just move around. So what areas or functions do you see have the most promise and traction in the next 1 to 2 years, and what are you less bullish over? And instead of a long answer, just kind of give us here. We've heard contact centers, we've heard other areas, but does anyone have a point of view? Is something overhyped that you think in the next year or two is not really real?
I'm with you on China. I've seen some miraculous things there. Last December, I did a tour with Ali and Tencent, and they brought in a whole lot of partners who showed us some robots that were just amazing. Some that would interface with vending and take them and deliver them to the room, and then switch the head to a mop, and then switch the head to a vacuum, and then do towel deliveries, all from the same robotics platform. Just really cool stuff. To your point earlier of not having guests kick the robot over, I don't think we're there in a lot of our markets. And so I think it's great for China, I think the robot's getting kicked over here. And so I think that one's probably a little further out domestically than I might like.
Yeah, we haven't figured that out yet either.
Yeah. English is my second language, so I apologize if I mispronounce anything. I grew up in New Jersey, and they are definitely not ready. What about somebody else? Here's another question if somebody else wants to take. When do you let AI just kind of do its thing versus human in the loop? And you could also take, how do you think about guest facing, which is higher risk, and throwing AI in the mix versus productivity or optimization, which internal you can easily A/B test. Anybody want to touch one or two of those? Cynthia?
Yeah, I'll go. I think it's probably pretty obvious. The examples where it's really rote, repeatable things. Even the example I just gave a minute ago about bots calling our call centers and humans answering those calls. That's just a no-brainer to be able to hand that off to AI. Where you want AI, or where you want humans to remain in the loop, where AI can be an assistant the whole way through the process, but you want humans in the loop where they have an opportunity to fix a problem or to enhance either whether it's an upsell or just enhance the experience for the guest, and really create that human interaction and touch. And that's going to vary by brand too. Some of our brands, the more luxury brands, people want that high touch. Others, they just want a bed to sleep in, and they don't really care if they talk to somebody the whole way through the process.
Wonderful. Right. Or Nitin, either way.
Yeah, it's such a fascinating question. So, hospitality is about care. It's a very human endeavor. And the use cases are pretty broad. We're seeing that throughout the day. So, making sure that the business people and the people that really understand any subject are driving sort of the vision and the thinking and are really modern in what machines should do and what people should do. And then I think it's just really use case specific. The work in sales optimization and RFP development is a really relational thing between people and humans. The work we do in personalization is just high scale, sub-second, machines that make, lots and lots of decisions in real time. And so it's use case specific, I think. Yeah.
I think when we expose the booking funnel and guest-facing AI use cases, then obviously all of us sitting here have an added layer of caution representing the brands that we do represent, which has a large sort of effect if something doesn't work the way it should. But having said that, I think it's a spectrum of. So the idea is not that you never put anything out. The idea is that how do you phase it out? And in the initial phases, I think more and more use cases where we are not sure about whether this is a human use case or an AI use case, I think that should side with the human end of the spectrum here. And as we mature in the offering and as we see the data and the results coming back from everything we have decided, ultimately it's a big intent layer that has to be centralized. And the intent layer is going to be a rule-based layer. And the rule-based layer lets you define which specialized agent to use. It lets you define what your workflow should be. It lets you say when to bring a human in. It lets you say whether you have to do a RAG search for this one. Everything is in your control if you get the intent layer right. Now, obviously, nobody's nailed down the intent layer yet because the sheer number of use cases across the whole spectrum are so large. But I think there is an opportunity to start small and slowly start chipping your way to the other side.
I think, too, just real quick, I think all the brands have a place they experiment and play. So to the point, luxury, for example, human connection is first. You didn't text people at a luxury hotel, right, until mainstream at other scales and in society, it was more welcomed and desired by the guest. And I think the same is true. Luxury is going to follow. They don't want, somebody autonomously to be driven, because that driver is a connection point to be able to engage and create experience. I know Homes and Villa from Marriott, for example, is an area that is a little bit of a safer playground. Is that fair to say?
And I do think that that's absolutely fair, and I do think that's one of the unique offerings that Marriott has, where Homes and Villas is a subset. So everybody who books homes and villas is a Bonvoy member to begin with, but it's a smaller subset of members, and it's a different tech stack altogether. So we get to go really fast on that stack when we want to learn some things, because end of the day, you're only learning in production some of the things. You can read all day, all night about it, but your guest is very specific to you. Your guest's habits are very specific to your brand. You know your guest the best, and when your guest can tell you something directly, there is no value you can place on that. So I think Homes and Villas provides us that niche where we can do quick iterations. It works like a startup, works like a lab, and then there are so many commonalities with the real Marriott guest because it's the same guest. And then what do we do? How do we learn from there? And what goes to the mothership? I think it's a very interesting model of innovation, actually.
Matthew, how do you guys kind of play and experiment, like within Hilton, and what you can share? Like, do you have a particular brand, segment, scales? I appreciate it may depend on the use case, but do you want to share just kind of some thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, one area would just be data science innovation platform. So we're working in an environment that can communicate with different applications, real-time systems, and containerize that. So we usually speak in Kafka language or something along those lines, and so we can package it up and test it out. But I think inside of the data science ecosystem and innovation platform, we're thinking things like, someone was talking about the room type assignments. We've done some versions of automating room type assignments across properties at scale as a quick example. So the ability to kind of use all of the different real-time or just data sources across Hilton, make some use cases of that, test different modeling, test different algorithms or bots, and then being able to ship that. Then we really partner, again, with the data science team. We're going to partner with the application team or the front-end team that's the front-facing team that's in, the core team or whatever it may be that would be implementing it. Like, it's just a good example of how we work.
Great. By the way, Sean from Skift is running this through ChatGPT. Hey, Sean. So don't worry, if there's anything you misspeak about, it'll be cleaned up by the time it hits the press. Why don't we switch gears? This was touched on a little earlier, but from the big global brands and the size of your and scale of your organizations globally, and I'll start with Lindsay here. How do you think about organizing the broader organization to adopt and use AI tools where it's appropriate? How do you harness the collective, talents across your org, not just the tech function or data analytics for innovation, to unlock use cases while still having, guardrails around brand safety and insights and recommendations? Because it is a longer term, the whole quotes of, you may not be replaced by AI, but you may be replaced by somebody who uses it better. So how do you bring an organization along, knowing it's not overnight, to educate, to help them get steeped in it, to get comfortable, and to support use cases where it's not just kind of the function some of us represent?
So in 2023, we actually implemented something called the Data Discovery Program, and it went out to all associates at Choice, and it was very successful in terms of teaching associates how to leverage data, where to find reports, a data dictionary, all those things to make decisions. So fast forward to today, we're now building something similar in terms of AI fluency. So we'll be rolling that out in the next few months, and that goes to everybody in a way that is safe, in a way that is, anybody can participate in AI. And so we've even created an AI show and tell to really bring forward associates of all levels across the organization to kind of say, these are things that I can do with the tools I have today, and it's amazing. It's actually amazing to see all the innovation that is happening across the organization. We've created AI champions within each department that'll kind of come together in a steering committee and then go back to their teams and share best practices and those sorts of things. So we're pretty excited about it.
Who else like to, Cynthia?
Yeah, I can go. Josh, I think all of that is obviously things we all need to do. We're taking the approach, at least as we're heading into the new year, of an AI first culture. And so encouraging every associate to figure out how they can incorporate AI into their daily jobs. But then to do that, of course, we've got to support them, get them educated, upskill them, provide them the tools that they need, and give them some freedom with guardrails, with some guidance, but give them the freedom to experiment as well.
Josh?
We're doing it with a sweaty CISO who is very worried about all the things people are putting into AI. No, look, we're a lot of licensing, right? For good news for Microsoft, we are giving out Copilot to almost everybody on Earth. Those back office use cases are less risky, right? And it gives everybody a chance to kind of incubate and up their skill set and get comfortable with it. But I think most folks are spending a lot of time with Gemini and Claude and OpenAI tools. And I think that's going to pick up speed pretty quickly. Similar to Choice, we do a governance board, right, that helps to steer some of these things and showcase those teams who come up with something innovative. We do team meetings and bring everybody together to do the same kind of show and tell format. And I think just encouraging those small wins is really important, right? Sharing the wins with the team, giving folks a pat on the back for jumping up and doing it. I've heard that same sentence or quote on it's not AI that's coming for your job, it's somebody who knows how to use AI well, and I think that's very true. And so just giving education to your teams, pivot those learning credits or those training dollars into this, right, instead of some of the old dry material that I'm sure at least on the corporate side here, we're all consuming every year. Those changes can really have outsized impact.
One more on this topic, yeah, Nitin?
So Marriott has a great governance setup. We set up a institution called AI Studio. It centralizes some key things, which are the capabilities that mostly all teams across your organization will need. So it looks at every use case that people want to do. And the interesting part is the request comes from each floor, each desk in the building, basically. And people are already thinking about it themselves. People are curious. People want to do it, but we don't want everybody to be doing the same thing. So there's some governance that is required for centralization. But the key of this is, I think what was just said, which is that you need to let people know what is acceptable, what tools can be used, what are the guardrails. And as long as you establish that, then it all comes down to individual curiosity. And for all things that we speak about the complexity of AI, I don't want this to get lost, that while this sounds like some crazy thing, it is actually quite the opposite. You can build much easier with AI, whatever ideas you have and what you need, right? So the complexity of actually writing down the code has gone down significantly. So curiosity is, I think, the number one human trait, at least I look at if I hire, that does your mind go here? Does your mind go there? Because AI can then deliver the end result. Now, I'm not saying it'll deliver production grade applications yet, but the first part of going from idea to prototyping is beautiful right now. Like you can have never coded a line in your life and you can show me something and visualize your idea, which for people like us, it used to take us months to talk to engineers and get something back in terms of fresh prototypes. So I think just centralization, governance around what the guardrails are, being careful about that, but then giving a little bit of rope to everybody to say, all right, go do your thing, show me something that you're thinking about.
Thanks. And I didn't want to cut off prematurely. I didn't know if Ray or Matthew, if you want to do this or move on to the next question, either way. Ray, do you want to go for it?
I could play with them a little bit. I think there's a fluency play, and we've kind of talked a little bit about that. And then I think there's another path around, high scale innovation, right? So when I think about that, it's like making sure that we've got good business leadership and a vision. So people thinking about how artificial intelligence is going to really impact a workflow, thinking about what's in wave 1, wave 2, wave 3 as we invest. And then there's a bunch of conditions for success, right? So, innovative, transformative leaders who can really help the organization drive through that, a product vision that's clear, tight integration with privacy and cyber and architecture to get things lined out. The digital teams sort of tightly integrated, thinking through what the future of their applications are and having a roadmap and a set of features that they want to really drive, and then making sure the data science community and the data communities are really tightly integrated. But getting that flywheel to spin and sort of getting the whole company operating together, I think from an op model perspective is another angle that I think will become more and more important.
Great. I'll start the next question with Matthew in a moment. I think, and we're going to run out of the clock time, but we talked to Naz. We're going to go about 5-10 minutes over, 2 minutes over. That's it? Really? Man.
She meant 20.
Yeah. I think one of the other things is challenging your current vendors. So I know Salesforce and other folks are in the room, Microsoft. When is it you're going to Gen A enable, Salesforce, for example, or whether it's your intranet site, your website, for customers and others to find basic information. But I don't want to click in 7 places. I want to ask Salesforce, hey, what are all the accounts in the Northeast, 100 plus keys that hasn't bought training for me, export, my key contact that's in this role. And I think that's something where people already know how to use those applications, and it can unlock productivity while other companies are doing that as well. Last question. So earlier today, we talked about AI search, right? It has a lot of different terms versus SEO. I think this is still one of the most important areas. Google is still 90% of search, but the mix is going to change over the time. Those of us old enough to remember print media, newspaper, magazines going down when digital, it was gradual at first for about 6 to 8 years, if you look at the data, and then accelerated. So there's no doubt that over time that's going to do, and this is data that came from Focusrite, with 0 click, in other words, the AI summaries you see in travel broadly, click-through rates were down 32%, right? That's pretty dramatic. And those that did come from an LLM converted 2 to 4 times the amount. So given the basis for the LLMs, as we've heard from Publicis Sapient earlier today, is changing, right? What do you think about from a brand perspective and then also from a property perspective? Because this is top of funnel, this is revenue. And while it might be 5%, 7%, 10, 15 at some point, that is going to accelerate. So Matthew, do you want to start with that and then we'll go to...
Yeah, it could be pretty quick. I mean, it's just really important to have a dual strategy at this point and start implementing immediately. I mean, the strategy around traditional SEO is fundamentally different than the strategy around AI content generation. And so you need to have that dual strategy mandate and be optimizing both of those. Because to your point, right now, Google and search still dominate. And we haven't, at this stage, from a brand perspective, really seen a revenue impact from the LLM type searches, although we're seeing it grow, and obviously as reported, it's growing as well too. So therefore, you have to be in that AI space and be thinking about the content orchestration and the content that you're building that optimizes towards that, but it's fundamentally just a different strategy. Right. So that's the biggest
So for time, if everybody agrees, nod. If anybody has a pithy 10-second comment, go ahead, Nitin. And then we'll do 30 seconds each of your closing thoughts.
So just so you know, I always have a comment. So there are two. I think we heard a lot about search today and AEO. I just want to bring out a point which I did not hear. So there's 2 ways of this search, right? So one conversation is about how to get into the core LLM, and second is how to get into search. What I am interested in is to get to search, because search is high intent. When I come and say, show me best hotels with cobblestone streets somewhere, right? That I'm laying down an intent, and how does GPT go solve that intent? So I'll give you a very simple trick to sort of see. Go to GPT, ask it 2 different travel questions, one which has a booking intent, one which does not. So one is, just tell me about Venice, basically, right? So if you just say, just tell me about Venice, you will not see searching the web written in the first line. But when you say, show me hotels with blah, 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 you will see searching the web being the first tool, which is why I think traditional SEO is still alive. Because all AI is doing in that point is it's doing a RAG search on the top sort of results, which are already ranking on some engine it is sort of sourcing from, and it is taking the top 10, 20 results, and it is doing a summary of results, right? So those 2 approaches are very different approaches. And the one that is still close to us, which gets the money in the coffers, is the searching the web part of it. So please don't give up on your traditional SEO, as Matthew was also saying. So you need to have both strategies alive now.
So who has the Reddit bot farm going? That's the question. Okay, closing thoughts, 30 seconds or less. Cynthia, and we'll just go straight down.
Sure. So I think that what's obvious is that we are just right at the cusp of the opportunities here. And I think we'll all continue to do operational efficiency things, and where the race is amongst these people on the stage here is which of us are going to tap into the most value that AI can bring, and who can do it first?
No, look, I thank you so much, Naz, for putting this all together. I think I answered the first question wrong. The thing I'm most excited about is to come back here next year and see how much this has changed, right? All bets are off. Look, I mean, a year ago, none of us were talking about this sort of thing, right? And I think next year it's going to be a very, very different landscape. I am just really excited to continue to innovate and see how we can, bring more guests into the hotels. Look, we are a buy, not build shop generally. There's some build shops down here that sound very technical. They're a little intimidating to me. There are a ton of good partners, right? They're here on the board. They're at high tech. Go talk to them, right? There's a lot in this audience who are moving a lot quicker than some on this stage, us included. And so, talk to them. I've been to a couple of events that have been talking. I mean, the Agentic Hospitality guys were just on it. I was at a Bonafide event not too long ago. Some really smart people out there that can help with this journey. Seek them out and have a good conversation. They can help a lot. Just move a little slower than us, if you don't mind.
Thanks, Josh. Lindsay?
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for having us. I think I agreed with a lot of the first panel I heard this morning. I thought was really good. I agreed with a lot of those points. I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit. You don't have to think of the best idea in the world. You can go after some of that. And then just ensure you've shored up your infrastructure and your data foundation, so whatever comes next, you're ready for it.
Yeah, I would add on, I think prioritizing strong projects that have, ROI associated with them, and really, thinking about that profit and loss as you prioritize projects is really important, because it's easily to get distracted by a lot of this and really slow down any company. And so thinking about, before you jump in, what's the bottom line of the activity itself. So I think that's a really important step to take, or a pre-step to take before implementing anything.
And Nitin, who told me he doesn't like to publicly speak, you have 3 seconds, because then you'll go 30.
So I was telling, so this is our second year on the panel, and I was telling Naz earlier that the depth of conversation today from a year ago was already so interesting, because almost everybody had been playing around with AI, and everybody came and shared their experiences. So last year conversation was more about what is it going to be, and this year it was a lot about some realities on what you have been grappling with, what you've done. You shared your experiences. So I had a wonderful time today. Thank you.
Thank you. Ray?
Yeah, just thank you so much for having me. I've learned so much. This is what the conversation I was looking forward to most, just to hear what all you guys are up to. This conversation all day has been wonderful. So I just want to appreciate that in a deep way. The innovation curve is it's a blazer. I mean, it is a rocket ship right now, and just looking at what's changing and what new capabilities are available every week is really fun, a little intimidating. Just kind of thinking through how that's going to impact people in all aspects of our lives, and certainly in travel is I think really important to watch. So I'm just excited to be a part of the journey with everybody.
And my closing takeaway is that there is so much excitement and enthusiasm about AI, not fear. I'm actually most afraid of this emerging field called NU, which is naturally unintelligent, i.e. human beings. So being here in DC sometimes. But thank you all very much. Naz, thank you for having us, and thank you for the panelists.